all of you are fine and safe at home. Have you completed all your work and finished studying the topics which I have already covered? Okay. I hope all of you have worked out monohybrid and dihybrid cross and you are clear with the topic. Today we will be discussing how sex is determined in the offspring and how do traits get expressed. These are the two topics left in the first part of the chapter, that is heredity. You know, second part of the chapter is already omitted. So this how sex is determined in the offspring and how do traits get expressed. These two topics I will be explaining with the help of a slide. After that, we will be discussing or continuing with the first chapter, that is life processes. Before the school closed, we had already started the first chapter, life processes, and we had completed the first two topics. Third topic, I think for one class I had taken and the second class I had not completed. So as per your request, I am going to start with the third topic, that is transportation in plants and animals. So today I will be teaching you how circulation takes place in plants and also in animals. So first we will discuss sex determination. Second, how do traits get expressed? And after that, we will be continuing with the first chapter. So after completing all the answers related to heredity and evolution chapter, you have to continue with the first chapter. Okay? I will be explaining with the video and after that I will be giving you some work also. Let us now start the first topic, that is sex determination. What is sex determination? It is defined as the process of inheritance of sex of a child from the parents. There are two types of sex determination. One, environmental determination of sex, and second, chromosomal determination of sex. So what are the two types of sex determination? Environmental determination of sex and chromosomal determination of sex. Next, what is environmental determination of sex? That is, environment determines the sex of an organism. For example, in some animals, environmental factors such as temperature at which fertilized eggs are kept determines whether the animals developing in the eggs will be male or female. Understood? So, depending upon the temperature at which the eggs are hatched determines the sex of the offspring. In the same way, in snails, individuals can change sex, indicating that sex is not genetically determined. When they are young, they may be one sex. When they grow older, the sex will change. So these are some of the examples where the environment determines the sex of an organism. In lizard, for example, Agama agamiae, high incubation temperature produces male offspring. Have you understood? In lizard, this particular variety, Agama agamiae, high temperature, when the incubation, what is incubation period? The period during which eggs are kept in the proper temperature for hatching. So if the temperature is high, then all the offsprings produced will be male. In human beings, the sex of the individual is genetically determined. That is, the chromosomes present in the organism will determine the sex. Next, genetic sex determination or chromosomal sex determination. In humans, it is the chromosomes that determines the sex of an offspring. So now children, please copy down all these points in your notebook. This is an important 3-mark question. So as you attend the class, please take down these answers in the notebook. In humans, there are 23 pairs of chromosomes. Out of that 23 pairs, 22 are autosomes. There are two types of chromosomes, autosomes and allosomes. In humans, there are 46 chromosomes, that is 23 pairs. There are two types of chromosomes, autosomes and allosomes. Autosomes are responsible for controlling the normal functions of the body. So out of 23 pairs of chromosomes, that is 46 chromosomes, 22 pairs will be autosomes. You can note it when I am telling this. Okay, 22 pairs will be autosomes, that is 44 autosomes. What is the function of autosomes? They will control the normal functions of the body. That is, in both male and female, these 22 pairs will be same. Because whether it is a male or a female, most of the characters are similar. So these autosomes are the chromosomes which control the normal functions of the body. Remaining one pair, 22 pairs, I told you they are autosomes. That means 44 are autosomes. Remaining one pair, that is 2 chromosomes, they are allosomes. What is the function of allosomes? They determine the sex of an individual in unisexual organism. Unisexual organism means male and females are separate. Bisexual or hermaphrodite means a single organism will have both the sexes in that same organism. For example, earthworm is a hermaphrodite. It has both, it can produce both male and female gametes. Have you understood this too? So first point for sex determination. How is the sex of a baby determined or an offspring determined? First point will be, first paragraph will be, in humans, the number, the chromosomes are of two types. That is autosomes and allosomes. Second, there are out of 23 pairs of chromosomes, 22 pairs are autosomes. Autosomes are responsible for controlling the normal functions of the body. One pair of chromosome is allosomes. They determine the sex of an individual in unisexual organism. Next, humans, as I told you, humans have 23 pairs of chromosome. Out of this, 22 pairs are autosomes, I said. These 22 pairs, we represent it as XX. Understood? Out of 22, I told you, out of 23 pairs, 22 pairs, that is 44 chromosomes are autosomes. How do we represent that autosomes? XX. And one pair is sex chromosome. If it is female body, the sex chromosome, that is allosome, is also represented as XX. And if it is male body, the allosomes are represented as XY. So in a female body, the allosome is also XX. Whereas in the male body, allosome is, in the pair, one is X and one is Y. Next, a male has one X sex chromosome and one Y sex chromosome. That is, half of the male gametes produced will have X chromosome and the other half will have Y sex chromosome. Hope you understood. Out of this, one pair of sex chromosome, in female, you know, when the gametes are formed, only half of the chromosome will come to the gamete because the cells will undergo meiotic division. Only half of the chromosome will come. So in that half, 50% of the sperms produced will have X sex chromosome because XY will split during gamete formation. So 50% of the sperms will have X sex chromosome and the remaining 50% of the sperms will have Y sex chromosome. A female has two X sex chromosome. That you understood. The sex chromosome in female is XX. So all the gametes produced, that is the egg or ovum that is produced, will have X sex chromosome. Understood? Sex of the child depends on what happens during fertilization. Depending upon which sperm has fused with the ovum, the sex of the offspring will change. Because in female, all the eggs produced will have X sex chromosome because they have one pair of X chromosome only as sex chromosome. But in female, this sex chromosome, out of that one pair of sex chromosome, one is X and other one is Y. So when they split, half of the 50% of the sperms will have X sex chromosome and half of the sperms will have Y sex chromosome. So depending upon which sperm, the sperm containing X or the sperm containing Y fertilizes the ovum, the sex of the offspring will differ. Now let us study how sex is determined with the help of, now I will show you how this X and Y is getting fused together. So as I said, if a sperm carrying X sex chromosome fertilizes an ovum which carries X sex chromosome, then the child born will be a girl. If a sperm carrying Y sex chromosome fertilizes an ovum which carries X chromosome, then the child born will be a boy. Thus, the sperm determines the sex of a child. So, please copy down all these points for this particular answer. Crossing also I will be showing you next. You must write that also for this answer. Next, we will see how the sex determination takes place in humans. Here in this, you can clearly see the number of chromosomes, that is autosomes and allosomes in the parents. On the right half you can see the chromosomes, that is autosomes and allosomes in the female body and autosomes and allosomes in the male body onto the right. So parent, that is the female parent, will have 44 autosomes and one pair of allosomes or sex chromosome. This 22 pairs or 44 autosomes and one pair of sex chromosome, that is allosomes. Same way on the right side you can see the male parent also has 44 autosomes or 22 pairs of autosomes and one pair of allosomes or sex chromosome. During the gamete formation, the second row you can see, during the gamete formation, this 44 chromosomes or 22 pairs of chromosome will split into 22 and 22. Same way, one pair of sex chromosome in female, that is XX, will also get split. That is what I have shown in the second line, that is 22 plus X from the sex chromosome. The red color what is denoted is sex chromosome from which one? Sex chromosome in female. And the remaining 22 also pairs with the next X chromosome. So 22 plus X and 22 plus X. So whatever may be the formation, egg, all the eggs or all the ovums will be similar. They will have X sex chromosome. Whereas in female, you can see clearly, in female, since the sex chromosome has one X and one Y, during the gamete formation, the 44 will split into 22 and 22 as in female. But in male, the sex chromosome will also get split. And one X will go with 122 and the other Y will go with another 22. So, two types of gametes are formed. 50% of the sperms will have 22 autosomes and one X sex chromosome. That is what I denoted here with 22 plus X. And the remaining 50% of the sperms will have 22 plus Y sex chromosome. So 22 plus Y. During fertilization, there are different possibilities. All the eggs produced will have 22 plus X, but it is not the same in male. There are two types of male gametes formed, that is sperms formed. If the egg fuses, egg is always 22 plus X. So if the egg fuses or ovum fuses with the sperm containing 22 plus X sex chromosome, then the offspring will have 44 plus XX. One X chromosome, sex chromosome is from female, another X sex chromosome is from male. The lines are clearly shown, so you will understand it nicely. So 44 plus XX. So if XX is a sex chromosome, will it be male or female? Yes, female. So in female body only we find 2 X sex chromosome. That is a pair of sex chromosome as XX. If the egg containing XX chromosome fuses with the sperm containing 22 plus Y, that is Y sex chromosome, then the offspring will have 44 plus XY. X from female and Y from male. So if the combination is 44 plus XY, then the offspring will be a male. So who determines the sex of the offspring? Father, or the sperm, the gamete coming from the male parent, or the sperms will determine the sex of the offspring. Hope you have understood very clearly. Please take down up to here for the answer for sex determination. Copy from the starting till this cross. Hope you have understood very clearly. This is an important topic. Next, let us learn how traits get expressed. We know that DNA is the information source for making proteins in the cell. Information source of protein in the cell is DNA. The segments of DNA are called as genes. Genes control characteristics or traits of an organism. For example, to understand this point clear, for example, we'll take if the tallness of a plant. It is a tall plant. If a plant has to grow tall, you know the hormones play an important role. Can you recall the hormone that help in the growth of the plant? Yes, auxins. So if a plant has to grow tall, hormone auxin play an important role. If the hormone auxin has to be, hormones are produced through chemical reactions inside the cell. Hormones are chemical substances. They are formed through chemical reactions. So enzymes responsible for producing the hormone should function efficiently. Understood? That is what the next point says. The amount of plant hormone made will depend on the efficiency of the process for making it. If the hormones have to be produced, all the enzymes should work properly. So depending upon the efficiency of the process, hormones will be produced more or less. If the enzymes work efficiently, as a result, lot of hormones will be made and the plant will be tall. If the enzymes are not working efficiently, what will happen? Automatically, the enzyme production will reduce and as a result, the plant will be short. That is the last point you can see. If the gene for the enzyme has an alteration, that is, if it does not give any order to synthesize, then what will be the result? The enzymes will be less efficient and the amount of hormone produced will be less. And if the hormones are less, what will be the net result? The plant will be short. Thus, genes control traits. Hope you understood. Transportation in human beings. We have already finished learning nutrition in plants and animals and also respiration in plants and animals. Today, let us learn transport in human beings and transport in plants. As we learnt earlier, blood transports food, oxygen and salts and takes away waste materials from our body for its removal. You know, blood is a fluid connective tissue. The fluid part of the blood is called plasma. The three types of blood cells, RBC, WBC and platelets, are seen suspended in this plasma. This plasma is pale in color. It is through plasma that food, oxygen, carbon dioxide and nitrogenous waste materials are transported in the dissolved form. The oxygen in the blood is carried by red blood cells, that is with the help of hemoglobin present in the red blood cells. To perform all the functions of circulation, a pumping organ called heart is present in human body. It consists of network of tubes to reach all the tissues of the system. Animals have an inbuilt transporting system which carries oxygen, nutrients and waste in our body. This system is referred to as circulatory system. In the circulatory system in humans consists of heart and network of blood vessels. In our body, substances are transported through blood. Blood is the fluid connective tissue and it consists of a fluid medium called plasma. And WBC, RBC, platelets, etc. are seen suspended in the plasma. Plasma transports food, carbon dioxide, urea, uric acid, etc. Oxygen is transported through a pigment called hemoglobin. The unit of hemoglobin is measured by gram per deciliter of whole blood. So, hemoglobin is a red color pigment which helps in the transportation of oxygen. It is different in different stages of the human beings. A newborn baby has 17 to 22 gram per deciliter of hemoglobin. The level of hemoglobin in children is 11 to 13 gram per deciliter. In adults, it is 12 to 18 gram per deciliter. In adult male, it is 14 to 18 gram per deciliter, and in adult female, it is 12 to 16 gram per deciliter. The amount of hemoglobin is different in different animals. In cows, it is seen that the hemoglobin is cows, cattle, etc. It is seen that 18 to 19%. The blood is transported through blood vessels in our body. You know, blood vessels are of different sizes. This blood, when it is transported, it needs to be pumped through the blood vessels and it should reach the different parts of the body. And for this function, the heart is located as a pumping organ in the left side of our chest cavity, which has connection with arteries and veins. Function of the artery is to carry oxygenated blood from the heart to different parts of the body. Since the blood is pumped at high pressure, these arteries have thick elastic walls. When these arteries reach the cells, they are branched into smaller blood vessels which are almost 1 cell thick, and these are called capillaries. capillaries are the smallest blood vessels which connect different organs of our body, different parts of our body. These walls or the walls of the capillaries are porous. Through these walls, oxygen, nutrients, etc. can enter and leave the cell. So the nutrients are absorbed into the capillaries and also waste materials from the cells are absorbed into the capillaries. Veins are blood vessels. Usually we represent it by blue color, veins. Veins are blood vessels which transport deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body back to the heart. They are thin walled. Since the pressure of the blood is less in veins, there are valves. These valves will prevent the backward flow of blood. It ensures that blood flows only in one direction, that is towards the heart. Hope it is clear. Arteries do not have valves because blood is flowing at high pressure. There is no chance for the blood to flow backwards. Whereas veins, the pressure is less and hence there are valves present which prevents the backward flow of blood. So if there is a cut somewhere in a body, what happens to the tubes, or what happens to tubes if the leak develops? Yes, when we are injured and starts bleeding, naturally there will be loss of blood from the system, and this has to be minimized. In addition, leakage would lead to a loss of pressure which would reduce the efficiency of the pumping system. To avoid this, the blood has platelet cells which circulate around the body and plug these leaks by helping to clot the blood at these points of injury. As the blood clots, the bleeding will also stop. Another type of fluid which is involved in transportation in human is lymph. Lymph is also called as tissue fluid. When the blood passes through the capillaries, through the pores present in the walls of the capillaries, some amount of plasma, proteins and blood cells escape into the intercellular spaces in the tissues to form the tissue fluid or lymph. It is similar to the plasma of blood but colorless. It has WBCs, that is white blood cells, and proteins. It does not have red blood cells. Lymph drains into the lymphatic capillaries from the intercellular spaces which join to form large lymph vessels that finally opens into large veins. Lymph carries digested food and absorbed fat from intestine and drains excess fluid from extracellular spaces back to the blood. Let us now learn the structure of the heart. Heart has 4 chambers: left auricles and ventricles and right auricles and ventricle. The size of the heart is almost the size of the fist of our left hand. The structure of the heart is different in fish, frog, tortoise, bird, humans, etc. Fishes have 2-chambered heart, 1 auricle or the atria and 1 ventricle. Deoxygenated blood passes from the ventricle and flows over the gills, and exchange of gases takes place in the gills, and the oxygenated blood flows to the cells, that is to the capillaries, and from there to the atria. You can see the circulation, how it takes place. Since the amount of dissolved oxygen is less in the water, fishes breathe faster than the terrestrial animals. When we compare the extraction of oxygen from the water, that is, fishes can extract almost 80% of the oxygen present in the water, whereas human beings can extract only 25% of oxygen from the inhaled air. Amphibians have three-chambered heart, two atria and one ventricle. The deoxygenated blood passes to the lungs and there exchange of gases will take place. Oxygenated blood from the lungs is passed to the left atria, and from the left atrium it is passed to the ventricles, and from the ventricles it is passed to different parts of the body and reaches the tissues or cells through the capillaries. Here the blood passes through the heart twice, but since it has only one ventricle, there is chance for mixing up of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. You can see here very clearly. It does not prevent the mixing up of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Whereas in fishes, you can see there is mixing up of blood. Since there are no four chambers, there is mixing up of blood. In birds and mammals, the major part of the energy is used for maintaining the body temperature. So, the valves here will prevent the mixing up of blood. Or here you can see the atria and the ventricles. There is valve between them, and between the right chamber and the left chamber also there is a valve. There is a wall. This will prevent the mixing up of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Birds and mammals are warm-blooded animals. So, more energy is needed for maintaining the body temperature. Clear? So, here amphibians, birds and mammals have double circulation. That is, the blood passes through the heart twice before it is pumped to different parts of the body. In fishes, it is single circulation. Birds and mammals and amphibians also, it is double circulation. There are valves in the heart which prevents the backward flow of blood. That is, the blood flows only from atria to ventricle, and from the ventricle, if it is left ventricle, to the aorta, and if it is right ventricle, the blood is pumped to the lungs for exchange of gases. Deoxygenated blood flows to the right atrium, and when it reaches the right atrium, it expands. From the right atrium, when it contracts, the blood is pumped to the left ventricles, and during that time the ventricles will expand. When the ventricles start contracting, the blood is pumped to the lungs for oxygenation from the right side of the heart. Here you can see the walls, there are thick walls. The ventricular walls are very thick because it has to pump with high pressure to different parts of the body and also to the lungs. The valves present here will prevent the backward flow of blood. Next you can see the oxygenated blood from the lungs is passed to the left atrium through the pulmonary vein. From the left atrium, it is pumped to the left ventricle by the relaxation of the muscles of the ventricle. When the ventricle contracts, the blood is pumped to the aorta, which is the largest artery, to different parts of the body. Deoxygenated blood flows into the right atrium that time. So, the contraction of the ventricles and auricles will take place. Contraction and relaxation will take place simultaneously. As a result, pumping takes place smoothly. When the blood flows through the heart, it exerts a pressure. The force that blood exerts against the wall of a blood vessel, that is mainly the artery, is called as blood pressure. This pressure is much greater in arteries than in veins. The pressure of blood inside the artery during ventricular systole, when the ventricles contract, is called as systolic pressure. And in the artery during ventricular diastole is called as diastolic pressure. The normal systolic pressure is about 120 millimeters of mercury and the diastolic pressure is 80 millimeters of mercury. Blood pressure is measured with an instrument called sphygmomanometer. Clear? So high blood pressure is also called as hypertension and is caused by the constriction of arterioles, which results in increased resistance to blood flow. It can lead to the rupture of an artery and internal bleeding. So normal blood pressure of a person is 120 by 80 millimeters of mercury. So dear children, I have given only 2 or 3 questions here. A question and answer is given. Please copy that in your notebook. And second thing, read the topic. Okay. Remaining answers I'll put in the group. So it will be easy for you to see. There is no problem to download. Thank you.